Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wired Batch 10 showcase. Live from Sandbox this time. We have a lot of people on Sandbox right now, so feel free to just come down to the room if you're on Sandbox, if you're one of those people who have access. So, I think Jonas isn't coming today, but thank Jonas for everything he's done. Thank you, Jonas. We have some amazing things to show you today. We have a huge list of rooms we need to go through. We have a huge list of wires we need to talk about. But first, just big shout out to the Wired team for being super active the last month, just testing these wires so that you guys can get them as bug-free as possible. Yeah. Why don't we just kick it off? What are selectors? So, we've already been teased a lot, but now it's finally here. It's selectors. So, selectors are a way to solve a problem that's currently in existing wired in Habbo. So, the problem we have in Habbo right now is that you need to replicate stacks for multiple tiles. If you have some kind of logic you want to run on a single tile, you will need to make a stack for each tile in a game. You would need to use match state effect for every tile or every position a Furni can be in, which is really expensive and it gets to be a lot of Furni. It lags the room by having too much wired in it. So selectors are a way to solve this problem, and what we will now see is how we can solve these problems. Batch 10 includes 22 new wired boxes, 17 of which are selectors, and 2 of existing wired boxes has gotten new options, which we will take a look at, and almost all wired boxes have new advanced options. So we will go through everything. It means we have about 80 changes to go through. There's a lot to talk about. We're not going to be able to cover everything, but I'm super excited that we can finally talk about this publicly. So why don't we start off by just looking at what's changed since Batch 9, which was a couple of weeks ago. So, some of you have already probably noticed on the live hotels that Wired add-on, at least one condition is true, now has an extensive list of logical operators. You can have AND operators, OR operators. You can have not at all operators. You have all possible options you would ever want in a logical add-on. So you can just select 2 conditions, and you can decide how should they be treated in the stack. And as well, in movement physics, we have a new update, which is blocked by furniture. You are now able to select furniture in movement physics that Furni will not be able to go through, even though they are stackable. This rule will only apply to this stack. So, those are the existing changes, and now we get to the good stuff. So let's start with tutorial 1, which is flick switch and teleport users out of area. This is something people have been waiting for years to get. So let us see how this works. So first of all, we have a switch that needs to be flicked. So we have already marked this, but then we have this. Users in area, which is a selector. So how selectors work is that they pick a bunch of users depending on the type of selector you're using. Or Furni, you can also pick Furni. So you can think of it as 2 different lists that you add to and subtract from. So let's start simple. We'll select all the users in the area. We do this by pressing select area and dragging the floor to mark a square and press ready. What we've done now is we've said once we flick the switch, we shall select all the users in this area. And then we have the teleport. We want to teleport all the bots to the ring plate. So what we need to do is select the ring plate. And I press ready. What will happen now is not what you initially expect. I get teleported. Why do I get teleported? Well, I am the person who flicked this switch. It's normal Habbo rules. Nothing is changing about how Wired currently works. But if you see at the bottom of most Wireds now, the help link has now become show advanced settings. So if we open this bad boy up, we can now select a little bit more. So if you take a look at what options we have select Furni source and we have select user source. So now, instead of using the triggering user, the user who flicked the switch, we can change it to use users from selector, which is the users in area. So if I now flick the switch, all those bots go away. It's beautiful. Let's just look at that one more time. This is 3 boxes, and we teleport everyone. So because I in this box said use users from selector, all the selected users will now teleport to the marked tile or the picked Furni. We will come back to it later, but you can also use Furni from selector. We might not show it today, but you'll be able to test this. So that's it for presentation 1. Let's move to number 2. Now let's do something a little bit different. So now, when a keyword is said, we want to toggle Furni in area. So now we want to do something to an entire area. So what we will do is we will have this box. You say toggle, and I'm gonna make it so it's only I who can say it. Sorry guys, I don't trust you. And then I use the Furni version of select in area to select all the Furni in this area. I drag the floor. And now here comes the weird part. In effects and conditions and in triggers, you no longer need to pick Furni if you don't want that. If you don't want to. You can now say use Furni from selector instead. You don't need to manually click all those tiles in the area. You can just use Furni from selector. So we take this, we stack them all up, and if I toggle, everything that's a Furni in the selected area now toggles. So I hope you guys are finally starting to see, like, okay, this is how it works. Okay, perfect. But now I'm gonna give you a little bit of a tangent. Because what we will now do is we will not use selectors at all. We don't need selectors to use batch 10. Instead, we can manually click, as we always do, the balls, for example. And in the toggle, instead of using picked Furni, instead of using use Furni from selector, use Furni from signal, which we'll get back to, we will use the triggering item. The triggering item is the Furni that was clicked. So not all triggers will provide a triggering item, and not all triggers will provide a user. So for example, periodic trigger will not provide a user or a Furni because it's not something that happens. But user collision will have both a triggering user and a triggering Furni. Avatar says something, only provides a triggering user. And you can see how this works now. So we don't need to select any Furni. We just use the triggering item as the one we want to toggle. And now everyone in the room go haywire, click the balls if you want. So now it's only the ball that was clicked by the users in the room that will toggle. Okay, so now it's getting fun. Now this is getting fun. Okay, everyone please stop clicking. I'm gonna show the next tutorial, but thank you. So now you can see that you don't need individual stacks for things anymore, but it gets better. This isn't this is just the beginning. We're not even like scratching the surface of this thing. So let's move to stage 3. Stage 4, sorry. And now we want to say something a little bit different. Now you should only be able to click the balls that are down. So what you can do now is use this. You can use a separate Furni, or you can use just a random Furni and save the state. I prefer just doing a separate Furni, so I can always refer to it. And then you can say all of the Furni match and use the triggering item. So what we're now saying is that as long as the triggering item has the state of being off, it can be clicked. So if I add this to the stack, if people try to click the balls now, they will only turn on, they will not turn off at all. You will not be able to click them off, only I can do that. Or even I can't do that, because if I click it, it goes back on again, but details. So, as you can see, now it gets a little bit more complicated. So, the way this works is that it will check if it's the same Furni. So, if I selected the color tile here as well, it will only check the balls against the ball. It will not check the state of the color tile with the state of the ball. It will only check for the same Furni type. So if there is none of that Furni type, then it won't check anything. It will just pass the trigger. If you're using a positive and if you're using a negative condition, it will never pass if it doesn't have a Furni to look at. Okay, so that was number 4. Now let's move to number 5. So now we can take this one step further. Instead of selecting items manually for the trigger, we can now say select all the Furni in this area. And in the trigger, we can open advanced settings. So if you already understood the last couple of things I've shown, you will now understand why you can now open advanced settings here as well. So now, instead of use picked Furnis, we can use Furni from selector. And in toggle, we can say use the triggering item, which is the item that was clicked. And now everyone please click color tiles and balls, whatever you want. So now you can see it gets better. It gets better. Because triggers, conditions, and effects are able to reference selectors. So yeah, this is pretty crazy. It gets better. This isn't the end. We have a lot of things to show today. But this is the main part about batch 10. It's all about the advanced settings. You don't need to use the advanced settings if you don't want to. If you want to wire as you've usually done it, go for it. It's perfectly fine. We have no problem with existing setups working. They should all work as they always have done. But now you get more options to wire. So instead of 10 stacks, you can now do 1 stack. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Let's see, was it 5 I was in? Yeah, so we'll move to 6. So now we'll get into more advanced. Now we'll get into more advanced stuff, because selectors have 2 modes. So we're now able to filter things as well. So if you've seen the graphic already, you will see that there's one graphic where it's yellow, which is the selection mode. And then you have the green mode or the filter mode, which looks like a funnel, which filters items. So what we can do is we can say you're only able to click glow balls in the area. So now, if I add this to the stack, as a part of the selection, you're not only able to click the glow balls that are in the area and not the color tiles. Because what we're saying is, use Furni from selector, which is all the Furni in the area, but only the glow balls. Because I've selected the glow ball. So the Furni from selector is after the filtering is completed. Okay, so now we will take it one step further. Everyone please don't click now. So now it gets complicated again. Because why stop here? Now we can go a step further. Now we will click a ball in the area, which is the stack we already made. But now, in addition to toggling the ball, we will now toggle all the color tiles that are around it. Be nice to Eleanor. Okay. So now what we will do is we will say, hey, I want to toggle everything around the ball. And using this wide, Furni in neighborhood. So if we open this funny thing up, you can see that we get some options here. So what we want to do is we want to toggle all of the color tiles around the clicked Furni. So the clicked Furni is the triggering Furni. So we need to change this to use the triggering item as the origin point. So you can move the origin point wherever you want. And you can also type in a coordinate that are outside of this area. But the maximum area is 11 by 11. So we can remove, if you want, we can remove the origin tile. So the tile underneath the ball doesn't get toggled. So I just draw like this. And you are able to hold in shift and drag if you want. So you can make a square. So now we say use the triggering item. And then we want to change the color tile. So we select a random color tile in the room and filter existing selection. Because what will happen is if you click a color tile that's near the edge, it will change the maze dividers. So since we only want to change the color tiles, we need to filter by type. So we will add this, we will add this, we will add this, and we will add this. And here's the thing. A selection will only happen once. So we can't say select all the balls in the area and send them into the trigger and then select all the Furni around it. We can't do that in a single stack. Because a selection only happens once on the execution of the stack. So what we need to do is we need to use signals. And this is where things get a little bit crazy. Because you can change stuff with signals. Which is the whole point of signals in batch 10. It's that you're able to say, I want to send some Furni to the next stack. I can select some Furni in the first stack and send it to the next stack. So the next stack can work with that dataset. So I'm not changing any of these settings right now because they're all default. And we're not going to talk about these settings because this is very complicated. Please try it out on your own. But it's a lot of fun to work with this. So please test this when this comes out. So we'll send the signal. This stack will receive the signal. It will select all the items around the glow balls, around the triggering item. And then it will filter down to only the color tiles. So the selection in this stack is only the color tiles around the triggering ball. And then we'll toggle it. So we just use Furni from Selector again. So in this stack we have selected all the color tiles. In this stack we're selecting the glow balls so that the trigger can work. So now if people click our ball, you will see that it toggles around the ball. Pretty neat, huh? So that's it for the tutorial. We'll take a short trip to take a look at all of the new wires that have come. Everyone on Sandbox, feel free to stalk if you want. Yeah, let's head on over to the wired introduction room. Let me just open this room up. Okay, I need to be in the room. Give me a second here. Yeah. Hold on, people. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Calm down. Okay, so we have 22 new boxes. 22 new boxes. It's amazing. Like, this is gonna take months. So, just a short recap of all the new boxes. So, we have already seen select users in area, select Furni in area. We also have Furni by type selection. We have Furni picks, which is the same as just selecting Furni in a random trigger effect condition, as it is today. This is very useful if you need to know, like, specifically this is the item I want to select. You have users in team, so you can select all the users in team, and in an effect you can say teleport users from selection. You can see where this goes. You can teleport an entire team at once with one stack. And then you have Furni on Furni. So you pick a Furni, and all the Furni on the tile, Furni at the same height, under Furni, above Furni, will be selected. And we have the same version in users on Furni. So you can select Furni here, or you can send a signal from a previous stack if you want to use selectors to also select the Furni. So just keep in mind that it gets more advanced because even selectors have advanced options. Then we have users in neighborhood and Furni in neighborhood, which we also took a look at. Then we have users from signal and Furni from signal, which is a way to select everything that was selected in the previous stack. If you need to, just replicate the same selection. Then you have Furni with altitude. You have users by type, so Habbo, Pet, Bots. So if you want to control all your bots at once, you can do that if you go into a move bot effect. And then you have users by name. Here we can type in a list of usernames that will be selected. So this goes as far as you want. You can just type. A lot of people. It's 20 or so. But selectors work that you can stack them. So if you run out, you can just add another one to the top of it. Let's see, name. Users by name. There we go. So if there's not enough space on this one, you can just add another selector on top, and that's also added to the selection. So it just adds those two selections together as one whole selection for that stack. Then we have users by action. So you select an action. So they're doing. Then you can select users in a group. and you can also users with hand item. And then here we have some special ones. So here we have filter to X users, which will take a selection of items and filter it down to a random amount or a random selection of the amount you have set in here. So if you have 100 people in an area that you have selected, you can filter down to 1. If you want to, for example, have like a zombie game where one person starts out as a zombie, you can filter down to 1 user and give that user the zombie ability or some kind of other ability. And it also works with Furni. There's a separate filter for Furni. And then you have a new condition which checks if the amount of selected items, either Furni from selector, users from selector, or some of the other options we have in here, have that amount of people. So we will show one. I think we will show one use of this. I don't remember, but anyways, so you can condition that the game only starts once 5 people have been selected in the area. So you can select users in area and then condition, 5 selected users, and then start the game. And then finally, we have move Furni to user. So you can move Furni to the triggering user. So the triggering user can be provided by a walk-on. Once a user walks on a tile, they get the Furni sent to their position. And we have the same with move Furni to Furni, where a triggering item, for example, if you have a user collision and an item collides with a user, that triggering item can be moved to either a selected item or one of the selector items. Picked Furnis is the wording we have. So that's all the new wired. So why don't we start? Why don't we start looking at some very cool things? Let's start by looking at some Misc use cases. So I'm gonna open this one up again. Yep. So here on the left we have, just to show, I have some ducks, too many ducks. There we go. So unfortunately this hasn't been replaced. It's still a test wired. This is how it looks when we test the wires. It's all the same box. So when I flick the switch, select all the Furni in this area, and then I have selected the current position in room for the ring plate and use Furni from selector. So when I flick the switch, all of the ducks will go to the ring plate because they're all selected in the area. Okay. And we have the same over here. We have the same for the bots. Once the switch is flicked, select all the users in the area and teleport them to the ring plate. And we'll just teleport them. And here's a fun one. If you remember the slide puzzle that Jonas did last year, you're now able in one stack to say, when a user clicks any of these 8 Furni, make it chase using the triggering item. And in here, you can now select what items are not stackable anymore. So I've selected 20 items that you can now see is blocked by Furni, which means that for this stack only, the rule is that these 20 Furni can't move onto each other. So you can see that just using one stack, we can have a very nice puzzle. This on top is just animation speed. Testing box. Over here we have a floor is lava. I'm not gonna let people play this one because we have a separate room for that, which is a lot bigger, which we're going to next. But what we can do now is we can say, select all the Furni in this area filter so it's only the color tiles that are white. So only select Furni state if state matches. So this is the white color tile here. So it will only select the white color tiles. And then we have a filter. This looks wrong, but it's a filter, one of those white big ones. Filter down to 1 Furni, and then toggle it again after half a second, toggle it again after 1 second, and then move it to the same location as the color tile. Use Furni from selector. So there's only one ever selected Furni. So if I just put this on right now, you can see that it just, as magic, just one stack, just removing 1 and 1 tile, it's all going away. So this is very complex. Just remember that it's all about selections. You select items and then you do stuff to those selected items. And we also have a system here to figure out by Furni in area, and then filter to the color tiles, send that signal to the next stack, select the users in area, and then we say there are invert, which means that we say not on the Furni that we got from the signal. So in the first stack, we selected all the color tiles. So we send all the color tiles to the next stack, and in the next stack we say everyone who's not on the color tiles that were selected in the previous stack will be teleported. So this, very fun. So let's take a look at a little bit bigger version of Floor is Lava. We'll open this one up as well. So I haven't fully wired this, but it works. Sorry about all the test wires. So here we have a very nice game where it keeps on doing this until there's only 1 tile left. And in this case, we're actually using in neighborhood, which is here, to actually pick a 2x2 instead of just a 1x1, which is the classic Floor is Lava. Okay, so if I then start this, you can see that it now picks 1 and 1 tile and moves them away until there's only 1 left. We can even speed this up a little bit. So you can see it goes really fast. Oop. I'm not losing this one. Okay. Nope. Okay. Let's see who wins, if there's any winners. Hey, congratulations to Brino and to Tyrannikos for this. Congratulations. So now you see that after everything has spawned, they are the winners. And then you can also spawn a switch at a certain time. I think I set it to 1 minute 40. We did it a little bit faster than what it was originally set to. So as you can see, you can make a really good game with very few stacks now. So what we will now do is we will move to the next room, which is a Tic Tac Toe room made by one of the Wired team members, which is Matt, or 10 points from .com. Let's see if this room is open or not. If not, the password is 102345, by the way. B102345. That should be the password, I think. Or it's 0234. Hey, we got someone. That's great. Okay, so this is a Tic Tac Toe. It doesn't use a lot of selectors, but you can see that you can still do a lot. So it's your turn, Steve. So click a tile. Then I click a tile. I'll let you win this time. Oh no, I lost. So you can see that you are able to do a lot of things with just one stack for clicking. So when a tile that is white is clicked, then make it that person's color if it's their turn. So you can see that you can do this with just one stack. Thank you for that, Matt. And then we will move on to the next room, which is my room. This one is a little bit crazy again. Sorry about that. Please, everyone in the room, please do not step on the color tiles. Just don't. Thank you. Okay, so this room is a maze generator. What do I mean by a maze generator? Or it's a labyrinth generator. Yeah, maze generation. What it does is when you step on this arrow tile, it generates a random maze. So if I step off and then step on again, it will create a new maze every time. It's a complete... So now it's getting... I'm never going to explain this, even if you beg. This is very difficult. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a slight delay, just so you can see how it works. When I step on it, it will start to draw a line, and then it will do that up to 5 times, and then it will draw in a random direction around itself, and generate the maze slowly until all of the space has been filled. So you can see how much you can do in just very few stacks. This is like 15 stacks, 20 stacks. Not a lot of stacks. So as you can see, it will slowly generate the maze. And if I then put it back to 0, it will finish instantly. And then it's all about just figuring out, where do I need to go? Where do I need to go to solve this maze? I think I went the wrong way. And what's great with selectors is that you can do, when an avatar walks on a Furni that's either yellow, orange, or red color tile, then teleport them. So this is one stack to just teleport them out if they walk on the incorrect tile. So as you can see, it gets very, very good. This is very, very fun. Very, very good. So this expands the limits of wired immensely. This is the fun part. So here we have Diavo running. Let's see. I think you went the wrong way. You definitely went the wrong way. Yeah. So this is kind of fun. You can make like a time trial. Run through the maze in 40 seconds. Would be a good maze room. Might show up in mymason.com in the future. And then, now, we will move to another Wired team member's room. We're going to Faraz Mateus's room from the Brazilian hotel. Which is, Mateus, if you want to go ahead and open up the room, if it's still closed. So people can come and see. We'll go here. So this is Peg Solitaire. And this is the wide for it. So there's not a lot of wide here. So once Bomberman steps on a random pattern, or not random, but one of those that have been set by Matthias, will show up, and it's all about jumping other bricks. And then once you have no longer any valid moves, the Wired checks for that using in neighborhood to check that there's no two that are close to each other, so it's not possible to have a valid move anymore. And then it just ends the game because you don't have any valid moves. So there you go. There are no valid moves. Game over. So the amount of complexity we can have in games now have increased dramatically, because we are no longer forced to wire every tile in a system. It takes a while to get used to this kind of wiring, but once you start getting used to it, you're going to be able to make some amazing stuff with it. Very, very fun. So here you can see, you can just highlight things that you click with the new click trigger from a couple of batches back. And then you can click to a dark green to move the item. So you can have board games now. So once it gets clicked, it flips it and all the other ones go down. So there's only one ever that's upside down. And then that's the one you select. So if you click another one, then you use the move Furni to Furni effect that just released, or will be released. Sorry, it's this one. Move Furni to Furni. You're saying use the Furni from the selector and move it to the picked Furnis. So you're able to do a lot of fancy stuff with this. Here we go. Congratulations, Matthias, you won. Okay, we'll move on. Now we will move to my room, which I have called RPG. This is a fun room. I love this room. It has some really... Those who have been in this room, do not spoil the surprise of the last one, please. So, what we have here in this red area is a people counter. We select the users in the area. And here we show something with selectors. If you select 2 overlapping areas or 2 overlapping sets of furniture, then everything will only be selected once. So we combine the selection. So if you have a more complicated area that's not a square, you can just have one area selected in one selector and add another one in a different selector, and together they will select everything in that area. And what we can do is we can send a signal for each user. So this will split up executions in Wired. So that means that for each user in the area, we will send that user to the next stack as a separate execution. So what we do then is for each user, we toggle the Furni state of this, which means we have a live people counter in this area. Very, very fun. Now we will move on to some... Oh, I forgot to equip my... that's the wrong one. This one. There we go. So here, you can cut wood. If you stand next to a tree, that tree moves out of the way. So it uses users in neighborhood. Yeah, deforestation is a problem, people. Don't go completely wild here. So what we're saying is, when you click the Furni from the selector, which is the trees, so I just select any of the trees, send that as a signal to the next stack, and then pick all the furniture that's there, and remove the tree. And then it needs to check that in the area of the triggering item, so the clicked item, there is a user. Okay. And now we get to the fun part. So this is all good. But now we get to the fun part. People in the room, please do not say this command, but, well, not yet. We can, for those that are watching, you know what this is. If you look at someone, Reno, please stand still, just 2 seconds. Yeah. Okay, stand still, stand still. There we go. And it works anywhere in the room. It's not only in this area, it works anywhere in this room using these stacks. So this left stack uses everywhere in the room. And then, as a grand wizard, I am able to say the word gravity. And that's a very powerful spell, which pulls 8 people around to my location. So, yeah. So, yep. This happens once people learn that that's a thing in this room. They start spamming that command. Thank you. So yeah, feel free to pull and gravity and whatever you want. To pull, you need to be one space ahead from someone and look at them to be able to pull. Yeah. So you can see that you can start to create spells. Imagine if you create a boss fight where the boss pulls you into the boss if you stand too close. Because what this actually says is that users in this area around the person casting the gravity spell gets pulled out. So if you stand outside of this area, you don't get pulled in. Only the people in this area will get pulled in. So as you can see, we use the move Furni to user. So we move these new walk tiles that are also releasing very soon to the locations of the selected users in the area, like in the neighborhood of the... So we select the users in the neighborhood of the person triggering the spell, and we move a walk tile to that location, and then we just carry them. We just use carry users. So this tile is just a storage area. So there's 8 tiles in this stack right now, but it could be more if you wanted to. So wherever in the room you are, you can just pull bots and pull each other, and it's a good time. Okay, so this next room, before I open the room, I need to place a duck. So we can do it. Let me just... Give me a second. I need to just place some ducks. I can't have people running around this game. Okay. So this is one of the maze rooms I'm currently just testing out, using the new NFT noob Furni. So I'm just gonna go over to the play area here. Just gonna go here. So I'm gonna reset. Not everything here is finished, so it's a little bit manual. But I'll show it off. So this game is all about keeping these guys alive. If they collide with each other, they go away. And if they fall out of the arena, they go away. The rule is that you can only place these wires in front of the guys. So if I now enable this and click this manually, because that's not wired, I can now start placing and rotating, if I want, these wires. Now, people, don't click, please. Thank you. So not everything in here is wired. So as you can see, I can place them wherever I want. So we can now start to get board games. And then once everyone has moved, we can just click this again. And then in neighborhood of this guy, check if there's a light. And then turn that light on. And we can just continue doing this against the clock. And they will continue to run until they hit something or they fall off the board like this guy. So there's a lot of fun stuff. I'm just gonna cheat a little bit to just show that I place this tile and just follow the wire along the way. So you can start making some really cool puzzles because we don't need to wire to a specific tile anymore. We can start to wire in relation to tiles. How tiles are in relation to each other, and Furni is in relation to each other and users. Okay, I'm not gonna solve this game, but it's a lot of fun to play with, and it's a lot of fun that you can pick up things and place them down again. You can pick other pieces. And now we will go to a room that is very, very laggy because it's on Sandbox, and it's a 64 by 64 room full of color tiles. This is made by Google Mare in the Wired team. And here the rule is, if you click on a tile on the grid, it starts doing this. And here you get the too many wired executions message. So not every wired completed successfully. And I can do this again. You can see that we can register clicks. This is a very complex and not optimized wired solution. So now you might need to optimize your wired solutions so that it doesn't hit the execution limit. So be just slightly mindful of that. Very, very fun. So as you can see, and very laggy, yeah. But it's showing how much you can do with wired now. And this isn't a lot of stacks. And it's only these stacks, because this left stack is something completely different. Yeah, Frank is panicking indeed. We'll go to the next room, which is the final room of our tour before we start taking some questions, if there are any. And if I had the Matchwood soundtrack right now, I would have. Give me a second, let me open this room. There you go. Please do not stand in the game arena, just stand everywhere else, thank you. So now, using only these wires that you see here, we can start playing Matchwood. So, the limits have been pushed. The limits have surely been pushed with this coming update. And what I can also do is I can say, okay, I no longer want the dog in the game. I'll remove that dog. So now, dogs won't spawn anymore. Which means we'll get more of the other items. So as you can see, I'm playing this very badly. But you can click, and you can click away as well. You can click a different one. You don't need to continue that click. You can just click something else. And you can even like add T and T if you get 4 in a row or 5 in a row, or you create an L. And then when you swap that around, you can remove everything around it. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So as you can see, it will continue falling until the board is clear of 3 in a row. So I think that was all we wanted to show. I don't think there's anything else we want to show right now. So we'll head back into the wired introduction room. And then ask if there's any questions. And if there aren't any questions, then I think this will be the end. We've gone for almost an hour, which is perfect time. Did I not open this room? Oh, I wanted maximum amount of people. That's what I wanted. Here we go. So, yeah, so I think people are a little bit speechless. They don't know what they want to ask. I can surely understand that when when you see this and get introduced to this feature, you can surely see that this is truly revolutionary. And I think Jonas has done a really good job on this. And there's still things that are being worked on, I guess. So hopefully this comes out very soon. Jonas, Are you alive? Are you there? Who knows? Well, so the first question is when. I'm not sure, but there's some hints that it might be next week, early next week. So just think about what we've seen over the weekend, and then we'll reconvene next week, right? That's okay. Yeah, that's good. So on Sandbox, I'm not sure when it will be released, but on regular hotels, it's very soon, most likely next week. So we will hope to show. We will hope to show more then, or we hope that you show us what you can do with this Wired. I think Jonas isn't here. Let me see here. Okay, are there any other questions? Does the selector for Furni in area also affect wall Furni? So selectors do not work with wall Furni. It's only physical Furni that's on a tile, since that's in relation to other Furni. Any preliminary details on the upcoming wide competition? I think the most information is what you will get out of the news articles that will be released on each hotel. If you move the wall item onto the middle of the room, I don't think wall items will still work. I think Jonas could answer this, but I do not think wall items are as supported in selectors. But really, do you need it? Do we need more complexity at this point? Okay, so if there's not many more questions or any more questions, can you only select an area of Furni, or can you also select them one by one with selector? Like say, we select 10 by 10 box, but we also want to take some other Furnis around too. That's a perfect question, Eleanor. So what you can do is, I'm gonna take this teleporter into this area. And we can take Furni in area. And then we can say, for example, this. So what we can do is we can use Furni in area, and we can also use Furni picks. Together they create one selection. So this is just one selection. And then we can add user clicks. With Furni from selectors, and we can change the altitude. For example, use Furni, use the triggering item, which is the clicked item, and you can set the value to 0.5. So now the ring plate and all the other color tiles can be clicked because it's a combined area, or a combined selection. So you select Furni in area and that. So this would even work if you moved it out of the area and clicked it. It would still work. So apparently it was the question from Uzuki as well. if I select an area and then cut the floor so the selection fits, the selection goes away. No, it does not. So the selection will stay the same, even if you cut the area that you have selected. So, if I change the BC floor plan, by the way, I was supposed to show this a little bit earlier, but if you haven't already noticed, in the BC floor plan, if you hold in shift, you're able to shift drag. Jonas has tweeted about this, but if you didn't know about it already, you are able to just shift click everywhere. So if you haven't used that, just for your information, that's the thing. Okay, I think that was everything. Are there any questions that I haven't answered currently? Yeah, this 64 by 64 room limit is sandbox only. Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else we can show? No, I think that's it. And there doesn't seem to be any more questions. So let's see. And also, Henrique wants to give a shout out to everyone for doing amazing work on this batch. Thank you so much, Enrique. The Wired team has really worked extremely hard to test everything and to get things to work and to make sure everything is ready for you guys as soon as possible. There's been a lot of testing. We've had a lot of fun, as you can see from all the rooms we've made. And we've been really excited to share these Wireds with you all. And then we'll reconvene at a later date when we get more Wired. Right? This isn't the end, this is only the beginning. So, from everyone in the Wired team and myself and Jonas, thank you everyone for watching. And have a great evening, night, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are currently. Thank you everyone. Goodbye.